Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
And we're doing it on Getter
Every single day.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
All right, folks, we're watching the close at the New York Stock Exchange, run wall right there. Another rough day. Looks like we're going to end more than 2,200 points lower on the Dow. NASDAQ almost 1,000 points lower. And again, this is on the heels of 1,600 lower in the Dow yesterday. And whew, they are officially in bear market territory. In the NASDAQ, a lot of these things are not good from a technical standpoint when you're talking about stocks. I'm looking at some of these other big name stocks like Amazon down to 171. That's down like $15 into Tesla's down almost $30 a share just today alone. Rough day. And for the second day in a row, silver lining, crude oil.
And the fact that these people are allowed to say just the most ridiculous things tells you that the dumbing of the United States has arrived, because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
That clown actually is a U.S. Congresswoman from the state of Minnesota who told her audience and her friends that I don't know. Maybe it is. It's rough if it is. Maybe, listen, you know me, I'm a free market guy. I'm ready for Trump to come out over the weekend and say, let's negotiate on some of these things. Maybe we're a little heavy-handed. It's not in his nature to do it, but I for one, a free market guy, certainly hopes he does. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying maybe let's try something else. We're down almost 4,000 Dow points in 2 days since we started this game. All right. Welcome and happy Friday. At least the market's closed. Can't go down anymore today. We got a big show for you today, so let's get right into it. Something that America seems to have quickly moved past is one of the greatest and most damaging scandals in the history of this country. And it's the Biden presidency, and specifically for years, elected Democrats and members of the mainstream media, the legacy corporate media, propaganda media, shamelessly covered for President Biden, claiming he was both cognitively and physically fit when he was clearly impaired and asleep at the wheel, as we often see now that Biden has moved on to life after politics, hoping. The truth is beginning to emerge. Ron Klain, a former Biden advisor, a senior Biden advisor, also was with Obama. Ron Klain, who defended Biden's infamous showing in that nail-in-the-coffin debate against Trump, he defended that, just now came out in the aftermath of all this and admitted that old Joe wasn't 100%. Wasn't even there a lot during the latter stages of his term, his presidency. This is newsworthy, solely because Klain said this right after Biden left the debate stage. Remember this?
And was suffering from a cold that really constrained his voice and constrained his ability to be forceful in the debate. And he was trying not to lose his voice, it was very scratchy and very impacted by his cold. But the president is absolutely sharp, fit, on top of his game.
Oh, yeah, I remember now. He lost that debate because he had a scratchy throat because he had just gotten back from Europe. 10 days prior, it was such BS. Sharp, fit, on top of his game. So what changed, Ron? I'll tell you what changed. You guys realized we caught you. We caught you lying. We caught legacy media lying. We caught Democrats lying. We caught Biden lying. We caught everyone lying. We caught Obama lying. We caught George Clooney lying. Ron Klain's comments reignited the debate about Biden's final month as president, if not final year or more. CNN brought the discussion to the roundtable, and as of usual, one of the network's conservative voices had to ask the obvious question.
And so should his advisors. I mean, talk about a big cover-up. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Donald Trump lately. I just want to ask a simple question. Who in the heck was running the country? If the president's mental acuity was in question and some days he's on and some days he's off, was the guy really capable of doing the job day to day? I honestly really question that. And I think a lot of Democrats who said at the time, oh, Joe Biden is the fittest guy in the world. He could do backflips. He could jump into the pool, run marathons, do 100 push-ups. When every freaking person who saw Joe Biden said, there's no one in hell this guy is physically fit. But they told us, don't believe your lying eyes because we're with him every single day. It wasn't true.
One more piece,
it wasn't true.
Just so people understand.
Really, honestly, folks, I mean, so many things happened in that 4 years, and especially towards the end when we knew he was cognitively gone, and now we know. There was a Politico reporter who wrote a book, who just released the book, and he said they would put tape, fluorescent tape, on places that they wanted Biden to go to and stand and deliver messaging, and he'd forget. He couldn't remember which tape, where he was supposed to go. It was bad. This guy was running the country, had his finger on the nuclear button. Think about that. And that's literal. That's not BS. That's literal. That nuclear football travels with the president no matter where he is. If he decides he wants to press the button, he presses the damn button. No one can stop him. Get it? Not even Austin Powers or Lloyd Austin. Austin Powers, Lloyd Austin. Same guy, same competency level, Lloyd Austin and Austin Powers. Michelle Obama now, somehow. Michelle Obama, if she didn't just go away like we'd all like her to, well, she just weighed in on kind of a bizarre topic. The former First Lady discussed men and the type of men that women like her seek out. Listen to this confusing quote.
With men, sometimes I think they're maybe a little bit too visual. I think there are a lot of women who are open to a lot of different kind of men and a lot of different kind of lifestyles. Women want a partner.
Kind of leading us to believe that all those reports that maybe Barack and Michelle are splitting up, maybe that's going to be the case. All right, let's jump down because I got a guy here who I really want to get to. The guy who knows, I mean, I think I met Mike recently, but boy, does he know his stuff. It's amazing how much he knows. It blows me away. I had no idea how much background that my next guest, a former, by the way, State Department official who negotiated U.S. foreign policy on international communications and information technology. But Mike is currently the director of the Foundation for Freedom Online. Let's welcome back Mike Benz. Really good to have you, Mike. A couple of things I really want to talk to you about. NSA, there were six people that got bounced by Trump. 3 of them were on the heels of investigative journalist Laura Loomer. She had been digging into their past. Laura Loomer had a meeting with Trump in the White House. I'm sorry, at Mar-a-Lago or the White House I think it was White House on Wednesday. And these 3 get fired. What do you think of the firing, and what do you think of the method? By the way, I think Laura Loomer does extremely diligent work, investigative journalism.
Well, it's hard to say from the outside because, the precise reasons. Obviously, the rumor mill is sort of a bust with the idea that these were sort of Biden holdovers and had been disloyal or leaking to the press or various other ways to undermine the Trump presidency from within. During Trump 1.0, there was a fairly high tolerance level for sort of internal betrayals. I think likely because of the Trump administration's desire to constantly play ball with the international wing of the Republican Congress. But just like with so many other measures the Trump admin has taken in just its first 100 days here, there's effectively been no tolerance for leakers or for folks who are perceived to impugn the internal consensus building mechanism. And this is frankly totally precedented. President Obama fired hundreds of folks from the Pentagon, from the highest ranks on down. This is a very important thing for the president to feel that he has the complete and total support of his own military. I should note this is coming on the heels of the JFK files, where JFK was quite notoriously betrayed by his own military. I had an interesting experience in the White House when I was a Trump speechwriter, where I was asked to look up a quote, JFK's quotes about his own military generals, because the president, this is now 5 years ago, was upset at perceptions of betrayal from his military. And so given that this is happening at the NSA level, which is, of course, tucked within the U.S. military, and at the National Security Council level, which is the interagency of the Pentagon, the State Department, the CIA, we've seen the attempt to buy out the CIA officers, give them golden handcuffs if they agree to resign, a potential purging of the staff, Elon making a visit to the CIA headquarters this week. I think the Trump administration is finally wise to the sheer facts on the ground, which is that the attempts to overthrow the administration from within have come from our defense, diplomacy, and intelligence apparatus, and there's no tolerance anymore for these types of internal coups.
So, Mike, if I may, Mike Walls now on the heels of the Signalgate issue, who put the reporter Jeffrey Goldberg on that chat. Walt said it was him, and now, there are three people at least three, if not six, that maybe Mike Walls, or some of them that Mike Walls maybe should have gotten rid of. Is Mike Walls our NSA on short time?
It's unclear. I know that there has been some controversies around Mike Waltz. A lot of allegations from MAGA world that he is, one of the more sort of neocon, old school foreign policy types. It's unclear what exactly was the driving force behind picking him, whether or not that was a nod to the sort of John Thune, internationalist wing of Congress, the Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. There is a tension between what a president wants and what a president can pull off. Oftentimes, since personnel is policy, the reassurances in order to hold a coalition together often manifest in the form of putting in someone else's guy to give reassurances and therefore get sort of favors for favors buy-in for approval for budget cuts or consensus for the president's budget in the next year. And so, the Signalgate affair to me is, it was an issue that most Americans don't feel super animated about in terms of, the Houthis. It's a very far away.
I didn't mean to insinuate like that would be a reason to bounce Walls. I mean, I meant that, when you have a couple of these things that bubble up like this, you tend to want to, as a figurehead, as the leader of the free world, to say, well, look, we took care of this. And that would a lot of times entail letting someone go. And for me, if there has to be someone, he would be the most likely. Again, you're right. I am very MAGA and very skeptical of Walls' past, but this I don't want to trample on Trump world. If I may, before, I don't want to lose you. I only have a couple of minutes with you. But this Judge Boasberg that we've talked about, Judge Boasberg's daughter, and Boasberg's the one who stopped the flights of Tren de Agua from leaving, or tried to get them stopped, and it's still in the courts. His daughter, Catherine Boasberg, works for a group called Partners in Justice, it's an NGO taking money from USAID to house illegal aliens and keep them from being deported. How is this guy not in a conflict of interest?
Well, so many of these judges are. This is a very, very, very frequent setup where you have judges who are fully in league with the foreign policy establishment, or as the foreign policy establishment was called under the Obama presidency, the blob, which was, Obama's deputy national security advisor, Ben Rhodes, his term for the defense development diplomacy apparatus that links the Pentagon to the State Department to USAID to the intelligence services. And this is a very frequent setup. We've seen, dozens of these judges, both here and abroad. You see the same thing with judges in Romania who are making these crooked rulings. You see the same thing happening with judges in Ukraine and judges in all these foreign countries. It's a very common thing. I mean, the American Bar Association itself has these international programs that in 50 different countries were involved. And so oftentimes the way you sort of get the buy-in from the judges is you put their wives or their husbands or their sons and daughters in these incubator networks, and then they're financially incentivized to rule in favor of it.
It's really it should be as corrupt as propaganda. It's almost communist type propaganda. Mike, I got to go. I really appreciate your time. You have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll get you back again real soon to talk about some of these things. Mike Bentz, everybody. Thank you.
You as well. Thanks.
Okay, folks. 2.5 minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, Mad Dog. Okay, here's the deal, Mad Dog. I can't see it because we're in the Orlando remote studio, and sometimes so what is my shot here? It looks beautiful. It looks like some sort of water and beach. What is it, Mad Dog?
It is the British Virgin Islands.
Ah, BVI's. Got it. Beautiful, beautiful. Well done. Well done. Well, tariff wars, boy, aren't we in the middle of it? Recession fears, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like right now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head stuck in the sand. Take control and safeguard your savings. That's why so many people, Americans, are turning to Birch Gold. They've helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, actual coins and bars, real gold, the hard yellow metal. You use it to hedge against inflation and economic instability with gold. To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text America to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text the word America to the number 989898. With an A+ rating with the BBB, Better Business Bureau, and countless 5-star reviews, trust Birch Gold to help you protect your savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled financial mess they're trying to unpack now. How long will it take to get out of it, and at what cost? Text America to 989898 today. All right, folks, it's been a very busy week in D.C., so I go to the man who knows everything that's going on. This guy has a pipeline into 1600 Pennsylvania and everywhere else. Man, the guy knows everything. Welcome, editor-in-chief of Just the News, John Solomon. So, John, a lot of news going back and forth with these NSA guys who got bounced. Laura Loomer exposed some information. Trump took it and ran with it. I like hearing that, because I think Laura Loomer does her homework, and I'm glad Trump listened, and I'm glad those folks are out. Now the question is, I posed that to Mike Pence. I'll pose it to you. Mike Walls, our NSA, that's two. Yeah. I mean, what's the play here for Trump?
Well, listen, I think Waltz started strong, right? We had some good deals with Israel, and we got some good hostages released. We had some momentum towards a Russia-Ukraine peace deal, although it hasn't been executed yet. Certainly more move Biden never got. But then, there's been some sloppiness. And sometimes members of Congress who come in and run things, they get used to having everything run for them in Congress, and Congress dysfunction is totally normal. And it takes a while to realize you got to grab the reins. You got to be in charge. You got to tighten the ship up. But he's a military man. He knows how to be a straight and narrow leader. And I think he's just got to tighten the reins on the organization he runs, get back to the basics of what he was doing for President Trump in December, January, and February before the wheels came off a little bit. And I think the president will give him some runway to take control. Now, if he doesn't do a good job, Donald Trump has no problem saying you're fired. But I think Donald Trump likes Mike Waltz. He likes what he saw in the December, January, February timeframe. Let's clean up that ship, I think, is the president's message, and get back to national security and peace, and not not using Gmail like Joe Biden and using Signal like they shouldn't have been using.
Got it. So this other issue, and you and I both have known the president for a very long time, and I know he watches the markets. I'm not confusing the economy, which is, I believe, still strong, with the markets, which are clearly weak and being affected by this tariff, especially the China retaliatory tariff from this morning. So we got a couple of really substantial down days. How's he? I haven't really talked to anyone in the admin recently in the last couple of days. How is he handling this type of move in the markets? Because I know he keeps an eye on it.
Oh, no, he does. He clearly does. I mean, he's been a businessman all his life. The markets matter to him. He knew this was going to happen. He said it was going to happen. He warned the American people, don't get fooled. There'll be some panic for a while, but it will come back. Let's take a look at what the markets didn't react to today, because they just want to act out on tariffs. The jobs report way better than people thought. The economy is actually a little bit stronger since Donald Trump came into office. I think the moment that this flips, I think there could be a couple of weeks of a sour market. Once the first numbers come in for these external tariffs and people start seeing an unusual new amount of money coming into the United States Treasury, the sort of money that brings down the deficit, can bring down the debt long term, can bring down inflation, because we're going to shrink government alongside of it. I think the markets will rally and say, well, maybe this guy's got something. Well, look at the Treasury. We're moving towards driving down the deficit. Maybe one day we'll address it. Seeing is believing in the markets, and as soon as Donald Trump's tariffs take place. The other thing is what Donald Trump said to the world yesterday is, yeah, you're tariffed, but let's make a deal. He's a deal maker. And the more deals start to consummate with Canada and other places, I think you'll see the markets stabilize. And the fact of the matter is, beneath the panic, there's a very strong fundamental economy. In fact, I think the economy's gotten stronger since President Trump came in. The jobs report was way above expectation. What does that mean? It means employers have the confidence in the Trump economy to start hiring again.
Yeah, I tell you, right. There's confidence. The business environment was that Trump came in. They're happy. They will hire. They'll spend money on capital spending within their own companies if they feel that the next 4 years or 8 years are going to be strong business environments, lower taxes. Those are all positive. Oil prices coming down $11 a barrel in 2 days. Another positive. The question is how much pain to those of us who have 401ks and some of us who are active traders, how much do we take before we go, oh, enough is enough? But you're right. If he comes and says, I don't know, maybe Brazil wants to negotiate a deal, that would be fantastic. I think things would turn around right away. Go ahead.
100%. And by the way, we had Peter Navarro on last night. He led off the show. In fact, he said that President Trump made him come on Real America's Voice. Isn't that great? I love to hear that. the truth of the matter is that Peter Navarro, the president, is completely comfortable. He's ready to ride this out because he knows the long-term benefit he's going to bring to the United States is worth the short-term pain. I think you'll see a message a lot. He'll come out, he'll talk or reassure things. It's going to be a 2 or 3 week uncomfortable time, but I think people who play the market long will probably do well. In the meantime, those who buy gold, like Birch Gold and others, it's the time to buy gold, man. Gold is just going up like crazy. It's going to hit 35, 3,900 in a few weeks. So gold buying is fun for people. I think people who play the long market, I think in the summer and the fall, the Trump economy will create a roar in the market once people realize how the fundamental flow of cash has changed into the U.S. Treasury.
I'll give you another one, and this is where it goes. So we import about $4 trillion worth of goods a year, $4 trillion. And basically, we were letting people come in for free. Very, very low barriers to dump their goods into America. If you just raise everything to 25%, and Trump has gone higher than 25% on an average, 25% is $1 trillion that goes, as you point out, John, directly into the general fund, right into the Treasury.
Yeah. You take that with the fact that you're starting to shrink these government. I've been meeting a lot of unemployed bureaucrats on the street in Washington, D.C., and it's starting to shrink here. And that combination is going to create a downward pressure in inflation that we haven't had a chance to see in 5 years. Indeed. And I think the markets will get super excited. The revenue starts coming in. You start realizing, hey, maybe we're fixing the deficit and debt, not lip service. We're doing it. They get the budget deal through in May.
Let's not forget, Donald Trump is the only human being in the history of this planet to bring oil prices down below zero. And that happened in I believe it was 2018 under Donald Trump.
2018, you're right.
I got to jump, John. Really good having you on. John Solomon, everyone, make sure you watch his show. Brilliant guy, tapped right into all things politics.
I want to shout out Robin Parker. I was talking, I love the whole Florida family, so I want to shout them all out.
There you go. We love you too, brother.
All right, guys.
All right, folks, before we head to break, just wanted to remind you all about my podcast and YouTube page. You got to go over there. We update that stuff daily with a bunch of new content that's not just this, but a lot more. It's things we're doing all over the place. I want you to hear the show, tons of other content you can get at any time, anywhere, but you must be sure to subscribe on the YouTube page and on the podcast channels, whether it's Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it. All right, we will be back 2.5 minutes. Orlando, the O-Towns, where we are right here. Gotta love Orlando. Thank you, Mad Dog. Thank you, guys in control in West Palm when I'm here in Orlando. All right, folks, the IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, and with April 15th fast approaching, about a week and a half away, it's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up, and if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting simply not an option. The longer you wait, the worse it gets for you. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you can possibly do. April 15th marks another tax year that's passed you by. Getting ahead of this now is the smart move, but never, never, never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Well, because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid, with proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10, $10,000, or $10 million. Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion, with a B, billion, in tax debt. Talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Stop the threatening letters. Stop looking over your shoulder and protect yourself and your property from seizures and bank levies. Don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV. April 15th, just around the corner. Act now before the IRS acts first. Okay, let's go to our pal, our friends. From Juarez, Mexico, beautiful Juarez, Mexico, I hear. Rav, host of Law and Border, Ben Berkwam, and Oscar Ramirez is with him as well. Guys, beautiful Juarez. I heard it's beautiful this time of year. What's going on there, folks?
Yeah, well, this is, actually, it's a pretty nice weather. You don't want to come here in the summertime. It's hot as hell. But right now it's a little overcast, so the weather's not too bad. But I was just going to say this from last night. Don't eat the sushi. I'm not feeling great today. Don't eat Wada sushi. But I will say this, one good thing that is coming right here. We're finishing up our week-long trip across Mexico. We were down in Culiacan, down in Sinaloa. This is the first time I've seen this. We've actually got Mexican National Guard troops here checking. They're inspecting. They're doing a pre-inspection of vehicles before they cross the bridge into El Paso, looking primarily for illegals and fentanyl. So this is the Trump effect in effect, the threat of tariffs in action. You've actually got Mexico responding down here. And obviously, you know, Eric, we have the lowest numbers on the border that we've seen. But right now, the biggest battle is the internal cartel struggle, the cartel fighting each other and the cartel fighting the government. So we're covering that. It's not the safest place to be, but hopefully, as time goes on, more of the cartel will be eliminated.
Yeah, you just stay safe. Oscar, weigh in on this news that we woke up to horrendous news of the 21-year-old University of South Carolina football star, 4.0 GPA, who was run down he was riding a motorcycle, run down by an illegal who was here illegally. He was given one of those mandates to appear in court. He blew that off, ends up killing another person. These what are these little chits they're giving? Hey, come appear, and sometimes they're 5, 6, 7 years down into the future, right?
Yes, and this is the consequences of open border policies of Joe Biden. This is all the consequences of all these Democrats that they push for this globalist agenda, the global compact of migration, United Nations, opening up the border and creating a new market for the cartels and NGOs. All of them, they need to be held accountable and complicit for what they have done, for the crimes against humanity, and for these families. Who is going to just defend these families now for the crimes that these people that they came illegally into the country of the United States and committed these horrific crimes? Everybody that came illegally through a non-port of entry should be returned back and deported back to their country. There's no question whatsoever. But the whole thing is that there needs to be consequences. That's the first thing that I said. Alejandro Mayorkas needs to be charged with crimes against humanity, and all these people that push for all these crimes that are happening right now to innocent people in the United States, Ben, they need to be held accountable.
Yeah, and Ben, take it a little bit further. Yeah, Alejandro Mayorkas. Oh, you mean the border is secure? Alejandro Mayorkas. Yeah, sure. How are the border agents taking this Judge Boasberg, who stopped Trump from sending Tren de Aragua thugs and criminals back to Venezuela?
Well, they're disgusted by it. Border Patrol has wanted to do their job for the last 5 years. They weren't allowed to under Joe Biden. In fact, they felt like they were having to break their oath to do the job they were being told to do by Alejandro Mayorkas, and now they're able to do it again. And so to have these judges, these activist, leftist judges blocking that, it's treason. I mean, you're intentionally, and as Oscar said, they should be held as complicit for the crimes. They should be accessories to the deaths of any American who they protected, willingly, knowingly protected to be here illegally. The same goes down here in Mexico. You see some of this happening against the cartels. You see some action against the cartels, but nothing is going to change until the politicians, the DAs, the judges, and the media that is complicit in protecting the cartels, both in Mexico and in the United States, are held accountable. And this is just one more example of that. We're going to have more angel families. We're going to have more deaths in America and in Mexico until we hold these people accountable.
Very, very quickly, I'm trying to figure this out. Oscar, so cartels are fighting the traffic, fentanyl, drugs, and humans. They get across the border, and sometimes there's an NGO, there's a church that's willing to take some of these folks. Is the church actually on our side of the border working with Mexican drug cartels?
Well, it's just it's a combination of a lot of things. It's because they opening up the borders. The NGOs they strategically put themselves in open border gaps, and they know that the cartel it is going to drop. It was dropping by the thousands before Trump, came into office and put order on this. It has the numbers have dropped like drastically. But a lot of these NGOs, a lot of these progressive, liberal, mercenary activists, they were involved with the cartels. As just to name a few, No More Debts. It is located in Arizona. They were completely involved with the Sinaloa cartel, and now that you have the cartel that is being pushed because the Mexican government is being pushed to a corner that there are, the threat of a terrorist naming the cartels as terrorists. Now the cartels are drifting more into fighting each other for the trafficking of synthetic drugs. So that is the next fight that the Trump administration needs to enforce more the border so they can crack down and lower down the trafficking of drugs into the United States.
And just real quick, Eric, we have evidence that these organizations were working directly with the cartels in many places. We have maps that were created by the NGOs that were given to illegals by the cartel coyotes. We have Border Patrol that says basically the NGOs are the go-between between the cartel and Border Patrol. So they're clearly complicit.
Yeah, they're holding tanks for the cartels until they can get these people that they're trafficking through. And by the way, the Judge Boasberg that stopped Trump from the deportation flight so far, his daughter works for an NGO. Doing exactly that. I'll leave it right there. Oscar,
that's
Ben,
right.
Thank you guys, and please be safe, fellas.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Okay, folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Well, look at that. That's a manatee tank. I just saw a big old manatee swim by. Oh, look at this. This is amazing. These are great shots. Where'd you find that, Mad Dog? Where is that?
I gotta hide my secrets.
Okay. What city is it, though? Can you give me that?
It's in Homosassa Springs.
State?
Florida.
Florida. Okay, got it. Well done. It's a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, not necessarily the stock market today, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. Truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. They're still in place. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the wellness company comes in. Massive company doing great work. Their doctors, and they're real doctors, are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. Again, prescription medical kits, right? Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications, guidebooks to assist in the proper use of the medications, from the flu to strep throat, from COVID to bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas. The Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your whole family safe. Make America Healthy Again starts at home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Go to www.twc.health/voice today and order twc.health/voice and use the promo code VOICE and save 10%. All right, folks. Do you know who Nate Baker is, by the way? Kind of alluded to him earlier in the show. If you only watched the legacy mainstream leftist propaganda media, you wouldn't know the name. And the reasons being this: his story, more specifically his death, is an inconvenient truth for the left. Nate Baker's tragic death doesn't suit the legacy media's narrative, which is to support keeping illegal immigrants here in America. Nate Baker was a 21-year-old University of South Carolina student, 4.0, by the way. He was also captain of the football team. He lost his life in a hit-and-run crash by an illegal alien, whose name I won't even dare to say here because I only want to say Nate Baker's name. That illegal alien was driving without a license. He struck Nate's motorcycle with his truck, and then that illegal horrendously fled the scene. That's the cost of illegal immigration, one of the small costs. There's so many of them that the left doesn't want to even acknowledge. The loss of even one American life is too many, but there have been just too many more than that. Nate Baker was killed by an illegal alien, and the legacy media didn't even talk about it. I'm not okay with that. I know you're not okay with that either. And yet, here we are, a legacy media, propaganda media group that has learned absolutely nothing because it only exists to serve the liberal agenda, the left's liberal progressive agenda. Let's get into it. Have you ever watched a so-called journalist, a veteran journalist at that, make excuses for a terrorist? Well, you want to see something like that? Here, I'll show you.
The terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so.
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
Oh, are you sure you're not understanding the feelings of the terrorists, says Leslie Stahl, you nut job? Have you ever watched someone make pitiful excuses for pitiful news reporting? Oh, you want to? Okay, watch.
One thing that came up quite frequently was the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Indeed.
And our editorial leadership today says, we wish we'd gotten on that earlier.
And you, in fact, expressed a regret yesterday in the hearing. That was one of the newsworthy things. You came out whole from that hearing.
There is no absolving someone who knows better than to do a terrorist bidding. And there's also no absolving someone who knows better than to follow government orders to hide a story that could change the outcome of an entire presidential election. Leslie Stahl, now a repeat offender, sat in front of a victim of a kidnapping, beating, and torture, by the way, by Hamas, and delivered her disgusting propaganda. Watch.
They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
Monstrous, disgusting behavior by Leslie Stahl, making excuses for violent kidnappers, terrorists. Those clowns killed 1,400 Jews, innocent kids going to music festivals. And her own colleagues in legacy media will never dare to criticize her because they're all in the same insidious, self-congratulatory, protecting the left at all costs club. You cannot distrust or hate the likes of CBS News enough. They're even more despicable than one can imagine. And the same network slammed President Trump for mentioning the Hunter Biden laptop story. Remember? Oh, I'll show you if you forgot.
You know, this is 60 Minutes. And we can't put on things we can't verify.
You won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't put on things we can't verify.
Leslie, I think it's one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen, and you don't cover it. You want to talk about?
Well, because it can't be verified.
You want to talk about insignificant things.
I'm telling you.
Of course it can be verified. Excuse me. They found the laptop. Leslie.
It can't be verified.
What can't be verified?
You know, the really odd thing is there, folks. I was there at the White House that day that Trump was being interviewed by Leslie Stahl inside. I was waiting outside the Rose Garden, waiting. He did an hour with me outside the Rose Garden, and he did that interview first. He was livid. He was so pissed that she did that. That was an ambush. And by the way, she was wrong. She was wrong the whole time. This is why the legacy media, their days are numbered, and they know it.
I'm very worried about the press, extremely worried about the press. I despair. Seriously, I worry greatly, and I think there are other institutions that have been suffering. And you're right not to blame Donald Trump 100%, obviously.
Well, you better despair. Leslie Stahl, who on the eve of the 2020 presidential election falsely claimed that the Hunter Biden laptop story cannot be verified on 60 Minutes, no less, and denied the established fact that the FBI spied on the Trump campaign. We knew that. Laments the end of legacy media now, almost without irony, without even beginning to comprehend her own role, her own being complicit in the fall of the legacy media for their BS. How very ivory tower of her. But speaking of that nasty Hunter Biden laptop from hell, another organization knowingly and willingly benched that icky, sticky, tricky story. They hid it. And now they're trying to desperately cover their own tracks. Here's NPR's CEO, Catherine Maher, doing cleanup on aisle 5 with the very willing help of a colleague who clearly got some notes beforehand. Watch.
But what made news was your regret that you had not done a better job institutionally on the Hunter Biden story.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not on the editorial side of the organization, and I was not there at the time.
But you represented it as your feeling and as the feeling of the editorial team today.
That's correct, because we feel as though it was a big story and we didn't get on it early enough. And so is that a mistake? Sure.
Oh, is that a mistake? Is that a mistake? Is that a mistake? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say it was a mistake. It influenced an entire election. 20% of voters said that after they would have voted differently if they had known that Joe Biden's son did that nefarious, treasonous things in his father's name. And your organization collects government funding, NPR.
They assume that you didn't cover that story more fully because you were biased.
I do understand that, and that's why I think it's important to acknowledge when we're not.
But you don't think that was bias?
I was not there, and I cannot speak to the conversations that happened.
You know, why even bother doing it, NPR? That reporter is falling all over himself, practically reaching across the table to Catherine, the assist on that, and they assume you covered that Hunter Biden story because of bias. Oh, they did. They also covered it up because Team Biden and his 3-letter politicized agencies, FBI, CIA, NSA, and their army of goons pushed them to do just that. And they willingly did it because of their bias, because they knew it was a story that could hurt the big guy's chances against the evil Donald Trump. Oh, but guys, it gets even better than that. And it doesn't matter because what you see is what you get. Whenever the left is in a pickle, they just redefine what words mean to suit their narrative, their agenda. Here's Catherine twisting your head on the word trust.
we can acknowledge that we are not always perfect. My belief is that it's not our goal to be trusted, it's our goal to be trustworthy, which means we get up every single day and we try to do the best job so that we earn the worth, that we are worth people's trust, but we never assume that we're trusted.
Okay. So let me get this straight. Lots to unpack there in just 13 seconds of absolutely and utter gaslighting BS of epic proportions. So one, we can acknowledge that we are not always perfect. Not really. You were forced to admit that you got it wrong because you had no other choice and were backed into a corner and squeezed on it. And two, I believe it's not our goal to be trusted. Well, what the hell is your goal? Well, then three, our goal is to be trustworthy. Oh, I got it. Don't be trusted, but be trustworthy. What? I beg to understand the difference. Thank you. Utter failure. Definitely not that. Having been that in a very, very long time, you folks aren't even journalists. Interesting. Desperate attempts at making some iteration of trust work for them after they blew your trust out of the water by lying and covering up for Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Again, these are the same folks who say a man can be a woman and have a baby, that a pedophile isn't really a disgusting animal, but a minor attracted person. And that President Trump is literally a fascist, a Hitler, a Stalin, and a Mussolini, all rolled up into one taco. There's a lot to unpack there. A lot of shock out there of this editorial in the New York Times. One of the worst repeat offenders in legacy media. They point out what we already know and have known since before the election even happened in November. The Democrats are a lost case. But in the same breath, and they write, and I quote, "We recognize that the Democratic Party is in a difficult position. It must compete with a Republican Party that shows an alarming hostility to American democracy. And we urge Democrats to continue speaking out against Mr. Trump's authoritarian behavior, his bullying of military leaders, judges, law firms, universities, and the media, his disdain for Congress, his attempts to chill speech through deportation." These people are horrible, horrible people. The legacy media, you can't hate them enough. Absolutely can't hate them enough. All right, before we go to break, I just want to remind you about that podcast again and my YouTube page. Make sure you go there, subscribe. We give you a whole bunch of new, unique content. We put it up, not just the show, but we do a bunch of shorts. We do some man on the street stuff. We'll show you where we are a lot of times. And if something breaks and it's big, we'll get there. But you must subscribe. YouTube page, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, both of us. Back in 2.5 with Bannon. Well, it's beautiful. I want to be there, but it looks beautiful, and I want to be exactly where I am in South Florida, the free state in the union. But let's go to a guy who's in a less free state, but nonetheless probably the biggest freedom fighter I've ever known, Mr. Steve Bannon. Steve, the tariffs obviously are roiling the markets, not the economy, because I'll tell you, I believe, and been doing this for 50 years. I believe the economy is very, very strong, but markets are taking that on the chin, and probably rightly so for now. Absolute transparency, truth to God, right now, I was buying stock all afternoon into that massive downdraft on the close.
Okay, it's official. It's official, because Eric Bolling's a deal guy. It's official. Eric Bolling's buying the dip. Okay, normally Kramer's got his in buying the dip. They're trying to cause a crash. They've got Katie Tur. Katie Tur did an entire hour of her show, the 3 to 4 yesterday, from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. And Eric, as you know, Katie Tur does not know the difference between live stock and preferred stock. So they're just trying to instigate a crash. The good news is, I do have an observation.
The good news is Kramer says buying the dip won't work, which means everything Kramer's ever said in his entire career has been wrong. There's an opposite Kramer, the fund that does better than anything he's ever put together. But so there's a little silver lining, I guess.
The inverse Kramer. But to be realistic, at 4 o'clock, the market closed on the biggest week in President Trump's presidency, first or second term, a historic week. Eric Bolling's show with surrogates. Now, we don't need people from the White House. We don't need Peter Navarro or Scott Besson or Lutnick. They do other shows. That's fine. And that should be done. We'll get them on at the appropriate time. But they should have 2 economists, 2 businessmen, 2 union guys packed on your show at 4 o'clock to talk about what's going on. One of the reasons for this big sell-off, the messaging, President Trump's doing the messaging. He's put on Truth Social. Scott does a good job going on, CNBC. Lutnick, I think, is doing a better job when he's not talking about robotics or the dollar. He's doing good. Peter's always good. He gets a little technical, but that's all good. But you need, as you know, they should have had 100 surrogates lined up here. Businessmen, economists, academics, and union people in Middle America.
You know what they lost? The messaging they lost, and they had it for a while. Everyone's looking at, okay, well, we're going to give it back to them the way they've been giving it to us, maybe a little more lenient because we're half of the number of the tariff. But they originally, Trump, in your turn, the first one and this one, it was all about, we're going to raise it with the intent of lowering it when the rest of the world realizes this is a bad idea to fight us. And they're losing that messaging war. And I don't know why they're not out there, as you point out.
Well, I think hopefully this weekend. I understand that the first team is going to go on the Sunday shows and then start carpet bombing on Sunday afternoon and Sunday night and throughout the week. So we'll have to see. I think there's a very strong message here. President Trump's reorienting the world trade system around America first and American citizens first. It's very powerful. The forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. It's a very powerful message. The economics, the great jobs report today and others. And part of it is that MSNBC, NBC, and MSNBC are trying to cause a panic to drive the market down, just like Kramer panicked back in 2008. As you remember, we played that yesterday. I just think we need to be on offense all the time. We're on offense on deportations. We're on offense on the national security strategy. We're on offense on everything. You need to really be on offense on this. And President Trump has got too much on his shoulders, Eric, to be having a message all the time. He's doing a great job on truth, but his plate's full. We need to be out there, bang, 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 just, offense.
Listen, I'll agree. I'll agree. We got oil prices down $11 a barrel in 2 days. We have interest rates that are coming down dramatically. These are good things for the economy. You have strong jobs report. You have strong employment. There's a lot of things that are pumping on the right side of the economy right now. They got to get this messaging away from the stock market, just away from the stock market, because it gives the other side too much ammo.
Yeah. Commodities are dropping. Interest rates. The 10-year was under 4 for today. The huge jobs report.
Yep.
Geopolitically, this actually, the tariff is about a reorientation of the world trading system. You've already got half of the people that have the reciprocal tariffs have already called and said, okay, We surrendered, including Vietnam.
I got an idea.
Vietnam,
Listen. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
Smartest man in the room. Put your glasses on for a second, Steve. Jack Posobiec posted this picture 2 days ago. We were trying to get you on. We kind of mixed signals 2 days ago. Here's a picture of you and the president. And, I believe I think that's Mar-a-Lago, if I'm not mistaken. But
Mar-a-Lago,
we zoomed in a little bit on that other picture in the middle. What's that picture in the middle, MD? Can you show me the other? Can you zoom in on that? Can you get in on that a little bit? Can you see what that says, Steve? Can you?
I can't say it's too.
Bannon and Bolling, the summer tour. I'm telling you, we need to get out there. We'll get out there and talk to the folks.
Let's
and we'll
do
have
it.
this
I'm
discussion.
all in.
A
street fighter and a pirate. How's that? Street fighter and a pirate.
A gangster and
I'm
pirates.
in. Bowling, I'm in.
Yeah, gangsters and pirates.
I'm
I love
in,
them
brother.
both. Have a great weekend, Steve.
We'll talk to Rob Sigel. We'll line that up.
All right, brother.
Thank you so much on a Friday. Appreciate you. Okay, folks, a historic day, big sell-off, orderly, not no panic there, although the MSNBC and CNBC trying their best to stir up a panic. Here's what we're going to do. We got kind of a longer cold open because so much going on. Let's play it, and I will return with observations and analysis as we open the war room.
It's so important that you bring up the fact that the Biden administration was late on figuring out just how dangerous inflation would be to working Americans. And again, said it was transitory. It ended up not being transitory. But Steph, it's very interesting. You bring up the Treasury Secretary, who again a couple of weeks ago said, cheap goods, affordable goods, not a God-given right for American consumers. And then saying yesterday, well, other countries shouldn't push back against these high tariffs. They're just going to do that. And we showed some clips of Scott Bessent. He looks very uncomfortable. And I suspect it's because neither he nor many of the people who are advising the president, certainly not those on Wall Street supporting him, actually agree with the president on tariffs. I mean, Donald Trump stands almost completely alone in believing that he can reorder, 45 years of globalism.
Bingo, Joe. My sources say that Scott Bessent is kind of the odd man out here. And in the inner circle that Trump has, he's not even close to Scott Bessent or listening to him. Some have said to me he's looking for an exit door to try to get himself to the